Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head a little bit north here in Sweden, and we're going to have a look at another one of the beers released in the small partiers on the 17th of May 2019 through Systembolaget. So for this review in particular we are going to head to Örebro, which is of course home to Örebro Brygghus, who've built themselves a very good reputation for IPAs and sours recently, and we're having a look at the collaboration that they've done with Apex Brewing Company, who are from Nora, just a little bit to the north of Örebro. So this one's called the See You Later, and it's an IPA coming in at 6% ABV. They've added orange and grapefruit juice to this as well, and it's supposed to be a Florida IPA, which I remember being a little bit more kind of bready and pale malty than the New England ones that you're coming across, and of course the West Coast IPAs as well. So very curious to see how this one turns out. Not often that you'll come across a Florida IPA, although that said I did review one from Brewski a couple of videos back, and that was a pretty nice beer. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Örebro Brygghus and from Apex Brewing Company as well. Hopefully I can add more to both in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Örebro Brygghus first off then, since they are the home brewery, onto my brewery notes. So Örebro Brygghus are based in the Apsholm Industrial Estate in Örebro, and the company is run by Anders Gradberg, Jesper Palm and Christopher Mattiasson. So in total there are 8 co-owners of the company, and the brewing is done mainly by Jesper and Christopher, who are both qualified brewers, having previously worked for the Närke Kulturbryggeri, who are, you know, one of the older and more established craft breweries, I guess you could say, in Sweden. But Anders, on the other hand, has also worked for 14 years at Systembolaget, so he has a really good knowledge of different spirits and beers and things like that. So together they make, you know, a fairly good team. But in 2012 they got the idea to start their own company, and they first introduced their beers into Systembolaget 4 years later in 2016. And in the brewery they have a brew kit from the UK which can brew 2,000 litres at a time, and as of 2017 they had an annual capacity of around 200,000 litres of beer per year, and they're also working to expand that a little bit from what I understand. The canned releases from Örebro Brygghus I think are fairly recent. The last beer I had from them, I'm sure, was actually in the bottle, so the canned releases from these guys is something that we'll see going forward. From what I understand, there's more and more breweries moving to using these kind of 440ml cans. But I've had some very good beers from Örebro Brygghus in recent times. I did have a really nice Berliner Weiss, I think was the first beer I reviewed from them. I also had a really good double IPA from them quite recently as well. So if you're interested in those particular hoppy styles and fruity sour styles, then Örebro Brygghus are one of the breweries that you really want to keep an eye on here in Sweden. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys start exporting a little bit more widely fairly soon. So yeah, check them out. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and as always you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that too, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on at the brewery. So anyway, on to the second brewery then, to Apex Brewing, who are from just a little bit to the north of them. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Apex Brewing are based in Nora, which is just to the north of Örebro, and they were founded back in 2017 by Daniel Gacic and Niklas Lundgren. Both of these guys are musicians. Niklas played in the band 59 Times the Pain, and Daniel played in the Voice of a Generation band as well. But Daniel and Niklas are responsible for the brewing operations, but there's a few other owners in the company as well. This is Leif Carlson, Ola Eriksson and Roger Ham. But they started off with a small 500 litre brew kit with 6 fermentation tanks, and they were selling their beers in the local area, just in pubs and restaurants and stuff like that, before they got them into Systembolaget. But in 2018 they brewed around 35,000 litres of beer in the year. That was the kind of capacity that they were using at that time, but they had about 25 different varieties as well, all of which seemed to be IPAs, and they had planned to reach around 100,000 litres this year in 2019. So it'll be really interesting to see how these guys do. They did have a release through the local and small assortment beers, but when I tried to order it at like 10:01, it had already sold out. So this is one of the breweries, as I've said before, that you really want to keep an eye on when it comes to IPAs, because they are doing some pretty damn good stuff actually. If you compare these to you know, the Stigbergets things of a couple of years ago, the Brewski stuff, you know, Omnipollo, if you compare them to these breweries, ABC, I think in terms of IPAs will be up there. And they're all, well, the beers they're producing are already up there, but I think in terms of recognition, give them another year or two, and I think this will be one of the breweries that a lot of people are talking about within the IPA category. So fingers crossed for them, and I do hope that they continue their very solid progress that they've had so far. But for a brewery that's only a couple of years old, to have 25 different IPAs out there is pretty impressive, I have to say, and they're certainly doing things right in my opinion. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Apex Brewing Company as well. If you want to learn a little bit more, of course, again, you can check out the brewery website, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on at the brewery as well. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 6% IPA. It's dry hopped with Citra and Chinook, and it's also got Mosaic and Lemon Drop pellets added to it as well, and it's got additions of orange and grapefruit juice too. From what I gather, this one is supposed to be a little bit of a sour Florida IPA, so I'm really curious to see how that one turns out. You know, the Florida breweries have been getting their names out here a little bit more in Europe recently. J. Wakefield, Cigar City, of course, one of the big players from early on, and there's a few others kind of popping up as well that I've seen collaborate with Örebro Brygghus from Copenhagen too. So yeah, the Florida breweries are starting to get out there a little bit more, and if you do get the chance, I recommend that you try some of their beers. There seems to be a very good standard of beer over in Florida these days as well. But yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork first before we open it up. There you can see the crocodile, or the alligator, just kind of sunning himself a little bit there. On the back of the can here, you can see both the symbols for Apex Brewing Company and Örebro Brygghus. Örebro, the one with this little factory building, because Örebro was kind of an industrial town from what I gather, and Apex Brewing Company up there. And yeah, they say gators, music and beer. So yeah, it's an alligator rather than a crocodile. My apologies there. If I'm remembering rightly, alligators are saltwater and the crocodiles are freshwater, or the other way around, I can't remember. No, I wasn't a biologist, I was a chemist and an astrophysicist, a spectroscopist basically, if you want to be specific. But yeah, it says best before the 2nd of November 2020, so you could actually age this one a little bit, so I'm guessing that if it has a shelf life of that long, it will be a sour IPA. But it says they're using a little bit of wheat in here, no mention of oats either. So yeah, I guess we'll get this one out and we'll see how we get on. So yeah, let's go for it. Another 440ml can. When you open this beer up, by the way, you can smell the sharp kind of citricy characters out of this one, and this one does look a little bit lighter than some of the other ones that you're going to come across. That looks really interesting. So yeah. So as you can see with this beer, it's poured almost like a kind of pineapple juice colour, a very hazy, almost straw yellow colour, a solid 2/3 finger of a bumpy white head, albeit perfect white I would say, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice, but nothing particularly surprising when you consider it's an IPA, although it is a little bit more like a kind of pineapple juice colour, this one, but nothing out of the realms of possibility in terms of appearance for this beer when you consider the style. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see a nice hazy opaque colour to this one. It is very, very opaque. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it does look pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah, so straight away you can pick out a little bit of the tart sharpness in there. Yeah, this is going to be, I think this is going to be a fairly sour fruity IPA. The grapefruit juice, the kind of sour qualities of the grapefruit juice are really jumping out of this one at you, but the orange juice gives it just a little bit of that more juicy quality. So it's a really kind of interesting balance there, to be honest with you. The orange is giving you a really nice juicy note, whereas the grapefruit's just trying to punch its way out and give you that very dark, almost sour quality to the beer. On the hoppy side of things, You can definitely pick up a nice little bit of a floral and grassy quality to the beer, so the green side of the hops is pushing its way out a little bit. But in my opinion, mainly the grapefruit juice is kind of dominating things, and grapefruit is a very, very powerful fruit in terms of aroma and flavour. So to be honest, it can be very dominant if you actually add it to a beer. So you've really got to balance the malt base and the other things in the beer just to you know, to sort of combat that, if you like. So the grapefruit for me really does take forefront of the aroma. You can really smell it here. The malt base on this one, you can pick up some of the nice white bready wheaty qualities to it. It's also, you can pick up just a little bit of a biscuity sweetness underneath too, but like I say, the grapefruit really is punching its way out, and you've got that nice smooth white bready wheaty quality in there also. So it's a really interesting blend of things, I have to say. It's on the hoppy side of things as well. There is a little bit more complexity to the fruit. You can pick up some of the juicy tangerine oranges from the mosaic. You can also get a little bit of the sort of lemony, lemon limey qualities, which will both come from the citra. You get a bit of mango in there incidentally as well, which will be coming from the citra. So you've got mangoes, a little bit of a lemon limey quality, which will be coming both from the lemon drops and some of the complexities from the citra. And you've also just got a little bit of a more juicy orange rather than the oily orange coming out of the mosaic as well. So yeah, a really interesting aroma, this one. Quite dominated by the grapefruit, but you really have to look in depth into it to get some of the other things out of this beer. So as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, because this is definitely an interesting one. Grapefruit dominating, but definitely a lot of little subtleties to the aroma that you can pick up if you just pay attention to it a little bit. So yeah, let's have a taste of this beer then and see how we get on. So this one is the See You Later, an IPA coming in at 6% ABV with citra, chinook, mosaic and lemon drop hops added to it, and also additions of grapefruit juice and orange juice as well. A collaboration beer between Örebro Brygghus in Örebro and Apex Brewing coming from Nora, just a little bit to the north of Örebro as well. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål. Sour IPA, definitely sour IPA. Yeah, it's got a nice little impact to it, this beer. Does have a nice little bite to it, let's just say that. You need to take a few sips of this one and just let your mouth adjust to it. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be a sour IPA or a fruit IPA, but I had heard that it was a nice sour IPA, this one. So yeah, I mean, I'm wondering this now, because when I think about the Florida IPA that I had from Brewski in Helsingborg a couple of videos back, it had a little bit of this kind of sour, tart edge to it as well. So is this, you know, the Florida IPA, I was talking to some other beer drinking pals that do blogging and things like that, and they were like, you know, what is a Florida IPA? So those of you watching in Florida, if you indeed are, you know, is the idea behind a Florida IPA that's a nice straight up bready malt base and you've got a little bit of this kind of sour quality to it? Is a Florida IPA basically a sour IPA? It's a style that you don't, as I said, I've had two breweries here in Sweden now doing it, Helsingborg, Brewski in Helsingborg, and now these guys are collaborating from Örebro to have a go at this style. So let me know if you're watching from Florida, what exactly is a sour IPA? Or what exactly is a Florida IPA? Is it simply just a sour IPA? Brain's not working tonight, really. But yeah, it's quite a nice, just fresh one to this. Once your mouth adjusts to it, the beer comes across really nicely, and it's not overly sour, it's not puckering or anything like that. It just has a little bit of an impact, and then it just kind of pushes its way, it just kind of smooths its way out a little bit. So it's really interesting just how this whole flavour kind of combines together actually. So let's try and break this down a little bit then. So in the middle of your palate you can feel a nice little bit of that pale malty base to the beer, which really is quite nice. It just gives the beer that nice light sort of crispness. You can feel a little bit of a kind of thicker wheat base to the beer as well, which is really good. So you can just feel that blanketing the middle of your palate. And that, again, that malt base is fairly simple. I can feel the grapefruit juice on the edge of the palate just really pushing its way out and giving you that very dark, almost kind of sour flavour, which is interesting too. And one of the things that we should point out when it comes to actually adding fruits as adjuncts into the beer, what always tends to happen is that the fruit juices suppress a little bit of the green side of the hops actually. So I've always found that it kind of reduces the IBUs of the beers that you're drinking, to be honest. So this beer on its own might well have been about 40 IBUs, but I think it's leaning more towards the kind of bitter side of the scale. Sorry, the more sour side of the scale rather than the bitter side of the scale, because the grapefruit juice and the orange juice are just pushing away at some of these, at some of these nice grassy floral notes. But in fairness, you can feel the beer sort of drying up on your palate a little bit the more and more that you drink of it. So I'm not quite sure whether to make that a definitive statement or just an observation, to be honest. But yeah, it's interesting how this goes together. I wonder if this Florida IPA is going to be the next fad that goes on. I mean, we've had all the New England stuff, and there's a couple of breweries now trying this Florida IPA thing that seems to be a bit sour, but also kind of light and bready, if you like. But yeah, once you've drunk about a third of it or something, you can really feel your palate just fully embracing everything that's going on in the flavour here. So like I say, simple malt base, pale malty quality blanket in the middle of your tongue, a little bit of a smoother wheaty note that does kind of sweeten up a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. There's maybe a little touch of a biscuity malt in there in the middle of your palate too, and around the edge of your tongue. On this beer, for me, there's a little teeny bit of earthiness in the back corners of your palate, and as you come further forward you can feel it's quite floral and piney and resinous. That'll be the Chinook contributing to that, in my opinion. The Mosaic will be giving you a little bit of the earthiness at the back corners of the palate, but yeah, a nice piney resinous note. But you can feel the grapefruity flavours just behind that, these dark sour flavours just pushing their way out, and that builds a good rhythm, if you like, with the Chinook, because the Chinook is a very straight up resinous and grapefruity hop. Actually, it's a very good bittering hop, I've always found, but some people do like to use it as an aroma hop as well, although I personally, with the dark flavours and the resinous qualities, I would prefer it more as a bittering hop in my own home brewing. But around the very front curve of the palate and the tongue, you do get a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy note to the beer, but for me that's where the orange juice is starting to push its way out. You can get these big orangey qualities around the front part of the palate. Yeah, that's nice. I do like how that orangey quality comes out on the front of the tongue. It's almost like it's darker and more bitter and grapefruity towards the back of the palate, but then it's more juicy and sweet and orangey towards the front of the tongue too. So it's a really interesting kind of contrast in this beer, to be honest with you. In the middle of your palate, you've just got this little bit of dryness coming out from the malt base too, which is very interesting. So yeah, just pay attention to that as you as you go through with this beer. In terms of the fruity side of things then, other than the juices that we've mentioned, of course, like I say, the fruity juicy qualities that are in the beer, they come out around the edge of the palate. So behind the front curve of the tongue, you've got that nice oily bubble that gives you these nice kind of juicy fruity esters. At the back of that oily bubble, you can pick up the dark grapefruit notes, which will be coming from the Chinook. The Citra might kind of add into that as well. In front of that, you start to get the mango-y notes, I think, from the Citra. And then just in front of that, you've also got the kind of orangey tangerine notes from the Mosaic as well. And just towards the front tip of your tongue, if you like, there is a little bit more of a lemony note. Although in fairness, some of the lemony qualities from the lemon drop will be coming out at the back of that oily bubble as well. So, this is quite a busy beer in terms of the feel on the palate. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. You've got some of these dark, fruity, grapefruity notes at the back of the tongue. You've got the juicier, orangey notes coming out towards the front of the palate. You've got the pine resins on the side of your tongue. You've got a smooth, pale malty, but also kind of wheaty malt base in there. And then you've got all these things going on with the fruity esters taken out from the hops in the beer as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one, this, but just be prepared. It is a little bit of a, this beer is a little bit busy in terms of what's going on. It's quite active, should we say. I think that's a good way to kind of describe this one, but there's a good diversity of flavour in there, and if you like beers that are going to test your palate, then this is one I think that will certainly do that and then some. So yeah, if you like a nice kind of sour IPA, if you like some of the things that Brewski did, to be honest with you, this beer is probably comparable to that, to some of the more sour IPAs that you'll find from Brewski. I can't think of anyone else in Sweden to compare this one to, but if you like a nice sour sharp IPA, then I think this is one that you are going to enjoy, to be honest. If you like the Breakery beers as well, actually, that's another brewery that you could compare this one with, to be honest with you. So yeah, have a go at this beer for yourself and just see what you think, but it's definitely one of the more unusual craft beers on the market here in Sweden at the moment. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say... yeah, mid-bodied beer. But in fairness, I always find the sort of sour beers to be a little bit lighter, so it probably is a low-bodied beer, light-bodied beer, rather than anything else. So yeah, it's got a little bit of active carbonation to it, very wet mouthfeel in my opinion, a little bit of tartness in the beginning, but you do get some of these more sour, dark, fruity flavours coming out of the beer the further you go into the aftertaste. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness. I think we're looking around 30 IBUs, and I think the grapefruit is almost contributing to that a little bit and making it feel as if that's it's actually more than it is. Nice little bit of sweetness in the malt base, a bit of smoothness in there as well, and also some nice juicy fruity esters, some of the oranges coming out in the front of the palate too. But you know, overall it's a really nice IPA, this one. It's quite interesting to have a go at a slightly different style of IPA too, and I'm curious to see whether this is something that catches on in Sweden over the next little while, because Brewski, as I say, have also done something like this. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and see what else we find. But if you like kind of fruit addition IPAs, you will like this one. I know that Peter over at the Clueless Drinker, he probably would really enjoy this one because of the grapefruit flavours. He's a massive grapefruit nerd actually. So yeah, Peter, if you're watching, if you can get a hold of this beer, I recommend that you do. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A nice big fruity sour IPA, this one, with a bit of piney resin in it as well. So check it out if that sounds like it will tick the boxes for you, and you won't be disappointed with anything you'll find from either of these two breweries, and I'm sure I'll return to them in the fairly near future. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know your favourite beers, both from Örebro Brygghus and from Apex Brewing Company as well. This one was the See You Later, a Florida IPA, coming in at 6% ABV, and it was an interesting one. This, it's a little bit difficult to get your head around initially, but you really start to warm to this beer after a little while. So check it out while it's still available, and hopefully we'll see more reviews from both of these guys in the fairly near future. But thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one was the See You Later Florida IPA from Örebro Brygghus in Örebro, and Apex Brewing Company from Nora, just a little bit to the north of Örebro. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål.